beautiful, blowing away the old record, I think by 2 years. We're not positive yet. We're double checking just to make sure, but it sounds like the youngest to top 16 an Open at 10 years old. Very, very impressive. Very strong showing with his Naya aggro deck.
Yeah, so going into our match, we talked to Huey a little bit about the matchup, and he said he felt like he'd drawn the worst matchup in the top 8, but he's going to get a little bit of help game 1 here. First of all, he's on the play. Second of all, Kenny Thomas's hand is missing 3 cards.
Well, in my experience, a mold of 4 doesn't mean, like, your opponent mulliganing to 4 does not mean you're going to win. But it does give Huey a very, very sizable advantage.
All right, so we are underway. Huey starts on a tapped Stomping Ground, but on turn 2, he will take 2 from an Overgrown Tomb to start on a Farseek.
And it looks like he's got the ability to generate a Huntmaster on turn 3, which is very, very, very effective against an opponent who's a little bit behind. He doesn't have a mana creature. Even if he plays a spell on his turn to stop the Huntmaster from flipping, most likely the Huntmaster will flip on Huey's, after Huey's turn.
And when Kenny with so few cards, that pressure for him to play a spell every turn is probably going to be a lot harder on him, I would imagine.
Absolutely. And it looks like his hand contains, is that 2 more land, a Hellrider, a Thundermaw Hellkite?
Yeah, it looks like he has a Kessig Wolfrun and a land. But yeah, the first creature of the game is going to go Huey's way. It's that Huntmaster of the Fells on turn 3, putting himself back up to 20, and Kenny's going to flip the Huntmaster for him.
Yep, it has to. Although he does at least he can play cards next turn, but even like next turn he can play a Hellrider, but even that's not half as good as the Huntmaster is at this point.
Yeah, so Kenny's down to 18 and now down to 12 as the Ravager of the Fells and the Wolf Token both get in unopposed.
We'll be lucky if this match if this game lasts 3 minutes.
All right, Huey's going to go ahead and follow up Shockland and Thragtusk. That'll put him to 23.
Doesn't last 2. We're on to game 2. William Jensen obliterating a triple mulliganed Kenny Thomas with red-green aggro.
All right, so while these players are playing, we're going to go ahead and bring you back into the booth for a second. For those of you who are joining us, we do trivia questions during the top 8, top 4, and that is true, I did say it twice, top 8, top 4, and finals of our Star City Games Open. So the first trivia question, which is going to happen during the top 8, is for 3 months of Star City Games Premium. You have a question for us?
Absolutely.
All right.
How old was the youngest person to ever top 16 an SCG Open in history?
All right, so you would have.
How old was the youngest person in history to ever top 16 an SCG Open?
All right, so this is a pretty recent thing. We actually just talked about it, but looking it up might be a little bit trickier. But
it will be totally tricky to look up this information.
Right? Yeah. If you don't know, if you haven't been following us.
If you don't know, I think all you can really do is just look ahead and maybe you'll get the next round. But if you can figure it out, how old is the youngest person to ever top 16 an SCG Open? Josh Morton from a local here in Salt Lake City, just this weekend.
He was playing Naya midrange.
An aggressive Naya midrange deck. Also happens to be Mark Rosewater's nephew.
All right. So with that, we're going to bring you into the match. Feels like it's just barely started. We are already on game 2. Basically, they're going to get to play 2 sideboarded games here. Once again, we said this is a matchup that Huey was a little concerned about. He felt like it was a bit of an underdog here.
This is his worst matchup.
Yeah, it's his worst matchup in the top 8 by his own admission. But up a game, does this get better for him post board?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Game 1 is the only game that isn't supposed to be super hard anyway. Right. The problem is Burning Earth. Burning Earth comes in after sideboard, and it is really rough for the Jund decks. Now he has access to Golgari Charm, 2 of them, but that's not a ton of answers.
Yeah, and I know we've actually been seeing a lot of this. A lot of Jund players being pretty concerned about this. Golgari Charm as a 2-of has become now a mainstay in our Jund decks. Actually, I think all our Jund decks in top 8 playing at least 2 Golgari Charms on the board, both to kill the mana creatures in this matchup and get rid of that Burning Earth.
Yeah, and I actually think it's possible we see an Acidic Slime out of Jensen. Not only does it hit the 4 Burning Earths, it can hit Kessig Wolfrun occasionally, just as a little bit added value. And at the end of the day, it is still it's a little slow, but at least it trades with most anything.
Right. So looking at Kenny's deck, we also saw sometimes Zealous Conscripts come into this matchup, Chandra Pyromaster, and Volcanic Strength all as options. Strength may be probably the worst of those 3 because he's playing against if he's anticipating Huey to go on an all removal spell plan, or as might be a little suspect to bring in.
Absolutely, I think you're right. Particularly if you're on the draw. I don't think Volcanic Strength is where you want to be on the draw. Possibly if you're on the play, you're going to try to press it, and Volcanic Strength the third creature you play. But he might, if it depends on how many. At this point, though, he's seen Huey's deck list, and he sees that Huey actually has less blockers than most Jund decks because he doesn't have access to those Lifebane zombies.
All right, so on Huey's side, he's going to go it seems like with a mostly green metagame, we're seeing Jund almost go with the same board package a lot of the time. It's basically boarding in all the removal spells.
Yep. From talking to Huey a little bit earlier today, it sounds like he's been boarding in every removal spell against every opponent.
Right.
Like even against last round, he played against blue, white, red Flash to get into the top 16, and he just boarded in all his removal again.
Yeah. So at that point, you're almost wondering whether or not to main deck them. But the extra removal spells we saw that he does have, he has an extra Doomblade.
Well, I think he's boarding out different cards every time.
Okay. So it's not okay. So. That's fair. So it's kind of like the hedge bet game one because you're not sure what you want to board out.
Exactly.
And then you board them in game two. So he has an extra Doomblade, he has 3 Lilianas, he has an extra Tragic Slip, he has a pair of Pillar of Flames, all as extra removal spells to board in.
Plus, he's got his main deck set up a little bit for, there's a little bit of Jund. He's got a plan against Jund that he hasn't got to use a ton. He's been facing a lot of non-Jund mirror matches, but fortunately for him, there are some other Jund decks in the top 8.
He'll get a chance to play the mirror match at least once if he moves on here. So we are underway. Both players start off with tapped Shocklands. Kenny Thomas, on his first 2 turns, just plays a Shockland.
These red-green decks do not want to play 0, 1, and 2 drops, particularly when the Jund player has a Farseek to pull ahead.
That's got to be pretty good for the Jund player here.
Oh, huge.
So say Kenny Thomas has kept, that mid-range hand, the all Thundermaws and Hellriders hand sort of thing.
Yep.
Is that really where he wants to be right now?
I mean, it might be a better place to be than taking a mulligan. He's got a good mix of spells. Particularly, let's see what he does in turn 3, because if he plays a Dominant Marauder right here, yeah, exactly. If he plays a Dominant Marauder right here, that's pretty solid. The problem is, this isn't the best game for him to be playing against Jund. Jund has a lot of ways to fight this, but it's at least a respectable one,
So Domri pluses up to 4. It does not find a creature. And it might be that the first creature of this game comes down for Huey.
But the problem is that a Huntmaster is a very dubious play when your opponent can just go Hellrider and then fight.
Right.
Now that does leave Huey in the position of having a wolf, so that the Damirati, who would now be at 2 counters, can be killed when you Doomblade the Hellrider that would threaten to block it.
Yeah, so which
is surely Huey's plan here.
That top card of the deck that he couldn't draw turned out to be a replacement Domri Rod, and Kenny Thomas, just as you said, the turn 4 is a Hellrider. He's going to use it to fight the Huntmaster, and then no swings past the turn.
Yeah. Now Huey sees exactly which way this game is going. I mean, he knew, you can tell he knew when he made that line of play that this is exactly what's going to happen. But he's got the Doomblade, and he's going to be able to kill Damirati.
And a huge bonfire for 3 there, miracled by Huey. Takes care of the Domri Rod, takes care of the Hellrider. Huey swings in for 2. That just seems huge right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a better Doomblade, at this point, because he was going to be able to kill the Damirati anyway. But part of what makes that nice is that then he can save the Doomblade for the Thundermaw.
Right.
And the reason that's so important is the Thundermaw is just about. I mean, that's the main way Kenny has to get back in this game. Because already things are kind of slipping away.
So it looks like Kenny doesn't actually have that 5th land. He plays the replacement Domri Rod, reveals an Arbor Elf, draws it, and then plays it. But his hand right now, as you said with those 5 drops, he has what looks to be a Thundermaw Hellkite and a Zealous Conscripts right now.
What's really interesting is Kenny Thomas has a Zealous Conscript in his hand.
Yeah.
So yeah, at some point he's going to be able to set up a big turn where he steals a Thragtusk and just bashes for a ton. If he can sneak in any Hellkite damage at all, he could potentially finish this game in 2 or 3 big swings.
Yeah, it's just so much haste power he has on the battle, in his hand. It's like that Thundermaw is at least 5 haste. Zealous Conscripts, you have to figure, is at least 7 haste, if not more.
And that's not even counting its ability to remove a blocker. Huey, what he really needs is a card drawer or some kind of card advantage, because at this point, Kenny Thomas has at least 3, maybe 4 big hitters in his hand. If Huey doesn't get some kind of an advantage, he's going to run out of gas. He needs either Rakdos' Return or an Olivia or a Garruk. He needs something that can generate, a big advantage.
Yeah, so we see there Huey Tragic Slips the Mana Elf. That keeps Kenny Thomas off 5. He then hits the Garruk, the Domri down to 2.
Ooh, is this Burning Earth?
And this is a Burning Earth from Kenny Thomas.
Absolutely.
Now, we've talked before about how important it is to play Burning Earth on a board where you're ahead. This is close. Is Kenny Thomas ahead yet? I'm not, I'm not positive that I want to play the Burning Earth right now when I'm Kenny. I have so many more cards.
Yeah, the thing is, though, first, outside of the fact that Kenny's got a lot of haste creatures, if Jensen's life total can get low enough, Kenny's threatening to just, knock him out of it completely. That said, you're absolutely right. Kenny is a little behind on board, but he's only one land away from greatness. Yeah. And part of it is that Huey wisely has he Farseeked for that swamp, right?
Yep, so the basic swamp.
So he's got a way to slow the bleeding a little.
All right, so we're going to see the Wolf swing and puts Domri down to 1. Huey makes Scavenging Ooze, taking 1 point of damage. He does have 4 green sources. I don't know how many of them he's going to want to use. They can pump it. Doesn't gain life now.
Yeah, the life gain cancels out, but I think he's going to certainly pump it as much as he can. The thing is that so Kenny does have a mountain in a forest. So he's not going to be taking nearly as much damage as he draws another basic forest. This is a big turn for Kenny Thomas.
All right, so he's going to go ahead now with his 5th mana. That last turn he did draw a Strangleroot Geist off of Domri Rod, but he's going to go ahead and go for the big spells. It's going to be Thundermaw Hellkite, taking the 2 damage, swinging in for 5.
No, for 2 because the Doomblade, right?
Yeah, for 2. And the Doomblade will deal 2 damage to Huey. And with the pass back, that's going to put enough creatures in the graveyard, I believe 3 creatures, so he's going to start out by eating the Thundermaw Hellkite, then go for the Arbor Elf, and looks like finish it off with his own Huntmaster.
Yep, now his life total is going to stay the same outside of the 2 damage he took from the Burning Earth to kill the dragon.
Oh, and actually, sorry, the 3rd card will be the Hell Rider from Kenny's deck, so there's a 4th creature in the Huntmaster that Huey can eat later on.
Absolutely, we're seeing Scavenging Ooze just quickly growing out of control.
Yeah, and now we've talked about before in this matchup just how important that 5th point is for Scavenging Ooze. Now that it's a 5/5, how does Kenny Thomas deal with a 5/5 Scavenging Ooze?
He hopes it gets big enough so that when he Zealous Conscripts it, it's game.
Okay, but there's no, it's on chump block duty.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way for him to remove it. Yeah, there's 0 ways for him to remove it at this point.
All right, so on that attack, William puts Kenny Thomas 6 damage from the Scavenging Ooze, 2 damage from the Wolf to the Domri Rod, and Huey plays out his entire hand, including an Olivia Voldaren.
Yep, this is going to be pretty devastating for Kenny Thomas because at this point, he doesn't have any way to win in 1 turn. Between the Olivia and the Scavenging Ooze, I don't see how he can win how he can even live through the turn.
Yeah, he drew a Mizzium Mortis for the turn. He's 1 mana short of overloading it, so he's just going to go ahead and cast it on the Olivia, and then use 2 more mana to cast a Strangleroot Geist. Looks like he just wants a chump blocker out.
All right, well, he needs to live through the turn. There you go. And Huey's really at 23, including the Burning Earth damage?
I'm not sure. We'll go. Yeah, I think he had to take 3 off that Olivia, so it might be a little bit lower. But because most of the taps were for Scavenging Ooze, he's close to 20 here at the very least. He's going to go ahead, eat the Olivia that was killed. That'll make the Scavenging Ooze a 6/6. Or is it? No, sorry, a 7/7.
William Jensen looks to be about 2 turns away from sealing this one up.
Yeah, he has a lethal swing on board right now, so that's a swing for 7. Or for
Question
9.
is, oh my gosh, Kenny Thomas, without a Strangleroot Geist to defend himself now, looking at lethal next turn.
Yeah, he takes 2, goes to 7, and Huey has the Scavenging Ooze eat the Strangleroot Geist with the Undying Trigger on the stack.
Absolutely.
Passes back. Yeah, Huey safely outside of Zealous Conscript's range. And we see a Mizzium Mortars from Kenny Thomas.
Does he have another one? Mortars?
It looks like he might have it. He's going to take another damage here.
Double Mizzium Mortars.
Second
he draws
Mizzium
the
Mortars.
second Mizzium. Well, play to your outs.
All right.
So we have ourselves a game again.
So Kenny down to 6, so it's still pretty close for him. His remaining 2 cards are Scavenging Ooze and Zealous Conscripts.
But he does have 3 basic lands to operate, so eventually Huey's going to get choked out on options because Huey can't, having 1 swamp helps, but he can't cast very many spells before his life total starts getting down low enough that it's relevant.
All right, so Kenny playing on his board, it's Elvish Mystic and Scavenging Ooze. The Ooze is a 2/2, but there is a Strangleroot Geist in the yard. It should be able to become a 3/3. All it takes, though, from Huey is, 1 removal, pretty much 1 removal spell, 1 Kessig Wolf run.
So many things he could draw.
Yeah, that 4 life, a really dangerous spot for Kenny. His deck with very little life gain in it. I think Scavenging Ooze is the only way he can gain life.
Absolutely, and there aren't going to be that many more creatures making it to the graveyard before this game is decided.
Right. Huey draws, has no plays, passes back the turn, and a 4th basic land for Kenny Thomas.
Kenny Thomas pretty much at liberty to play whatever he wants. The only thing costing him is 2nd red if he wants to play Thundermaw, Hellkite, or Hellrider at some point.
Yeah, now he's in this spot, though, because he's at 4 life, he actually can't attack because, Ooze is the only thing that can attack, and he needs it there to block.
Yep. Next player to draw. Oh, it's another Hellrider, which is only going to cost Kenny 1 life, but it's going to put a huge amount of pressure on Jensen.
Yeah. So Kenny on the end step actually did not eat the Scavenging Ooze yet, so his Ooze is only a 2/2 for now. But he's going to go down to 3 to play Hellrider. And now he has 2 3/3, so he has the potential to both attack and block. He's going to start working on Huey's life total. With both Hellrider and Elvish Mystic getting in, he's pretty much just throwing away the Elvish Mystic so that his Scavenging Ooze can eat it here.
Yeah, that does appear to be his plan at this point. And Jensen says, okay, I guess that's what we have to do.
All right, Elvish Mystic hits the graveyard. Huey drops to 18 after damage. And looks like Kenny will pass the turn. Huey draws another card. It is a Dreadbore. So that'll take 1 damage for Huey to cast it, but it will at least let him get one of these threats off the table. Which one are you picking? Are you picking the Ooze or the Hellrider?
It's interesting, too, because if Kenny had eaten the token at the end of the turn, he could be 1 life higher. He could end up at 5 life in response to this Dreadbore instead of 4, which is the difference between an entire turn of clock with that wolf token.
So we see, it looks like Huey's hand has both Golgari Charm and Dreadbore in it right now.
Yeah, I think wow, if you have both, I think you start by you kill the Ooze, get in there, and then see what happens.
He's gonna Dreadbore the Ooze, swing with the wolf token to put Kenny down to 2.
That Golgari Charm is really interesting because it lets Huey for just 1 life, because he can just tap a green mana, but for 1 life, eventually destroy the Burning Earth in the event that he needs all his mana to cast something.
Right, so he almost likes, it's like he's keeping the Burning Earth in play because he actually kind of likes what it's doing here.
Yeah, the extra damage. I mean, Kenny can only make 2 more red mana the rest of the game unless he draws another mountain.
Right, so when he's playing cards like Hellrider, Thundermaw, Hellkite, that 2nd red costing 1 life for him is pretty relevant right now.
Absolutely. Plus, the fact that he's at 2 already, he can't even attack with this Hellrider. There's there's no progress to be made.
So Kenny's draw for the turn was a Rootbound Crag. That's his 7th land. It's a duel. He has right now 1 Hellrider. He has the biggest creature on the board. The remaining card in his hand is a Zealous Conscripts, but he is at a meager 2 life.
It was impressive to come up with those 2 mortars. Playing patiently, give yourself a chance to get into that position.
Right, and we see Scavenging Ooze as the play for
pretty big game
for Huey. Yep.
Because that's already going to go up to a 4/4, right?
Yeah, we have a Elvish Mystic at least in the graveyard.
And an Ooze.
And an Ooze, right.
Yep.
So that's, you're absolutely
I think that, the Mystic might already be removed.
Okay, so we have an Ooze on both sides.
Yep.
All right, Kenny going to 1. He's going to go ahead and play
this. Is this the Thundermaw? It's got to be, right? Or is this the Conscript?
That Zealous Conscripts that was in his hand. He actually played the land for turn. So now out of cards, Conscripts comes down. But what does he steal with it? Does he have, I'm not sure what the line is right now. I don't think he can't do 16 on this attack. But he knows that he has to play the creature. He needs another blocker. So he can only really attack with the creature he steals here.
Right, he can attack with the Ooze for 4. That's about the best he can do.
Right. And he may not even want to eat the creature with the Scavenging Ooze.
You certainly do, right? Because then it's 4 damage, because Huey is just going to do it anyway. Eating the creature doesn't cost any life.
Sure.
And the creature's going to get that big anyway.
Okay, so
you
might put your own extra damage in.
Right, exactly. You might as well just take the free 2 damage that you got an opportunity to 2 damage, take it.
And just so people know, the triggers do stack, so that despite the fact that he's at 1, he still can make that play. He'll gain the life before the Burning Earth hits him.
Not that he knows, it's not clear that he knows that.
Yeah. He's going to go ahead. Actually, in response to the Zealous Conscripts, Huey's going to go ahead and eat the cards, and looks like he's going to eat the creatures himself to make it a 4/4.
Yeah, maybe he's just figuring, I don't want to give him the option.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure the advantage behind Huey eating them himself. I mean, I think
does Kenny have a card in his hand? Because if he had a forest in his hand.
No, I mean, I think they're going to get eaten either way. It's probably 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Yeah.
So.
But Kenny can only attack with the ooze.
Yep, he has to leave back 2 blockers for next turn. This ooze will be a 5-point swing.
It's just 5 because of the Hellrider. You're right.
Yep.
Which does knock Huey low enough that we're starting to get to the space where Kenny could actually realistically just KO Huey in one big hit.
Yeah, but he's at that 1 life. He's going to have to do it just off his basics. And remember, we have Golgari Charm still in Jensen's hand.
It's going to be funny if at some point Golgari Charm, he takes 2 damage to cast it, and he gives every creature -1/-1, which prevents 3 damage.
Yeah.
For a net gain of 1 life.
So black-green gain 1.
Yes.
Yeah, sounds good.
Solid.
Looks like he's going to go ahead and drop to 11.
What an intense game. This game was looking over with Huey walking away into the semifinals until Kenny Thomas top decked a second Mizzy Mortars to be able to take down an 8/8 ooze.
Yeah, so I kind of want to go back to that Burning Earth play. So since it's been cast, the Burning Earth has dealt 8 damage to Huey and 5 damage to Kenny. So at that point, it is better here, but what do you think of that trade there, just based on?
Oh, I still think it's worth it too, because it's getting better and better for Thomas the longer things go on. I mean, just look, he's got 4 basic lands to Huey's 1. Huey's eventually going to find his options constricted more and more and more.
I suppose Kenny has been able to play every card in his hand, even despite the Burning Earth.
Absolutely.
All right, so the swing's there. Now Huey gets back his own Scavenging Ooze, draws for the turn. If he has a kill spell, it will be game. It doesn't look like he has one yet. He has Golgari Charm. He has... He's going to go ahead and swing the team. The wolf gets eaten. The ooze gets chumped.
Now, the nice thing about this line is that this means that the ooze can continue to grow.
Well, Huey also can use Golgari Charm to -1 here to get rid of the Hellrider.
Absolutely.
He's going to go ahead and eat a creature with the Scavenging Ooze, and he's going to do just that, shrinking the team.
And he wisely pumped the ooze for... it wouldn't have mattered, right?
The
ooze, yeah, it
ooze,
would have mattered.
The ooze took 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would have mattered. He wisely pumps the ooze before doing that, so he doesn't kill his own creature.
Yep.
All right, Kenny has dropped his turn. He has Flint of 4.
He has to stay home, because now Huey has him on the ropes. Kenny at 1 life, facing down a 5/5 ooze.
And we see Doomblade. That's going to do it.
Huey Jensen advancing to the semifinals, 2-0 over Kenny Thomas's red green aggro.
All right, so Huey
Exciting
getting a little bit of a gift in the first game really works for it on the way back, and really what ended up to be a very close game too, but manages to take down what he